Hello YouTube, my name is Jack, and this is try to keep this about 5-6 minute video on my saltwater aquarium. I've had it for 2 weeks now. Bought it from a guy who was moving and didn't want to move it, and had a pretty basic system. It was just 35 gallons, pretty basic stand. The live rock was in it, the water was in it, and then one of those two clownfish came with it. And decent filtration, little T5 light. Filtration's a little wonky, but it'll be fine, at least for now until I get it fixed. There's a T5 high output on it. There are two 800 gallon per hour heads set to run at different times to roughly simulate tidal flow. And then I've got 3 different light sources. I've got 2 actinics, which you can't really see because it's on, 2 bright whites, and then eventually I'll have an LED back in there. But the LED was just being a little wonky, so I'm going to have to adjust it and reinstall it. End result being a 24-hour cycle with 3 different light settings: LED moonlight, dusk, which is going to be LED in my actonics, an hour before my bright whites turn on, which is going to be all 3, and that's going to be daytime, and then with a 12-hour cycle on my 800 gallon per hour pumps to keep the water circulating and roughly simulating tidal flow. There aren't any timers or anything too fancy hooked up to it yet, so it's still a fair amount of work, but I don't really mind because I'm really happy with it. Let's get into the fish. Obviously, I've got my 2 Ocellaris clownfish, my little Nemos. This guy right here, or girl I should say, since she is looking like the dominant one, came with the tank. And then this little guy, I guess because that's how the genders are determined, just picked up yesterday along with that little black and white chromis that you see darting his head around. Made a bad buy, bought a big golden maroon, had to trade him back in. It was just a bad situation, but they paired up instantly. It seems to work well. Established dominance. They were literally, I haven't seen them more than further than that far apart since this morning when the fighting sort of stopped, and by fighting it was probably just foreplay. Oh, there's my black and white chromie. Cute little guy. Not real big. I might get 1 or 2 more. I know the tank is technically overstocked, but being peaceful, I'd sort of rather he was in a school. And there you can see my flower pot coral, which is the happiest of my 4. Got them a couple days ago, maybe a week. They're still acclimatizing, which is fine. And in there, as he darts around, you just got a great shot of my bicolored dwarf angel, who I call Archer. And that right there is a sailfin tang, who I just call Sarge. And behind him, if I can get a shot of him, is my blue velvet damsel. And they aren't being super cooperative, but that's a great shot of the sailfin. Beautiful fish, very rambunctious, loves to play around, very social, likes hanging out in the front of the tank, not real easily startled. Plus, his fins are just truly beautiful. I bought him as a show fish, and I have not been disappointed. He will outgrow this tank. He will. In a year, he'll be too big. I'll have a bigger tank by then, this being my first. I figured it would be just fine. Then on the background, you've got my bicolor dwarf angel, little Archer, beautiful fish, super sweet, little timid. He has some issues being out in public, doesn't really like loud noises. Once he's used to you, he'll come out, but when I have friends over, he just hides. Mostly a grazer, they both are. The sailfin will eat the mysis when I put it in, which is 3 times a day, which explains how that guy up there got so big so fast. But the bicolor just likes to graze. He's been pretty happy just chowing down on the 35 pounds of live rock, and then I put one of those in there every day or 2 just to make sure that there's plenty of food. And having said that, my cleanup crew leaves something to be desired. I was concerned that those 2 might not get along. They're similar sizes, but they're different species, and they look nothing alike, but I've heard similar size, similar shaped fish can have issues. They get along just fine. They hang out together, they eat a lot together. They're the only real grazers in the tank. Everything else sort of just waits to be fed. But they're pretty cool. They've got this sort of side little nested off. There's a great little hidey hole right there where you can sometimes see Archer. It seems to be his favorite. And that little blue velvet will actually dart through it and just have a great old time. You can see I've got some pretty good nooks and crannies on this live rock. that blue velvet knows very well, and I really hope I never have to capture him because it would not be an easy experience for anyone involved. And there's a couple of good ones of those two. Obviously, you see a couple of hermit crabs. Not enough of a cleanup crew. I need to upgrade it. I know that. I'm aware of it. I just need to add more. I'll probably go to the pet store tomorrow and pick up a few more. My snails aren't doing a great job of keeping the glass clean, but easy enough to fix. 20 bucks worth of cleanup crew and it should be good. Really good one of him eating. One of my snails, there's 3 total somewhere in the tank. Truthfully, I can usually only ever find one. They blend in really well. And there is a good shot of my live rock. I've got 4 coral currently in there. That is a bright green candy cane. Don't know the scientific name for any of it. A mint green candy cane. A few zoas. And my flower pot, which is really, really happy. And those guys have just sort of claimed it. They really like this little area, and I'm pretty happy about that. In the background, yeah, there's a reef decoration. I wanted places for stuff to hide since there are smaller peaceful fish and larger semi-aggressive ones, but haven't really had any issues. The blue velvet kicked them around for a little bit, but you can see right now they're doing just fine. When you can see the black and white guy, he really does not stand out too much in that tank, unfortunately. But not a problem, not a big deal. Everyone's happy, getting along. The two 800-gallon prowers are working great. They're keeping just a little more detritus stored up in the water than I'd like, so I'm going to have to adjust those over the next day or two. But so far it's running really well. The tank's only about 2 weeks old, in its current amalgamation, but the live rock and all that has been in there for years. Literally bought it from a guy who was moving and didn't want to transport it, and then upgraded it to fit my needs. And that pretty much sums it up. As far as the whole tank goes, I've had a couple of small issues with it. The T5s were really heating up the tank. I was getting some temperature spikes, which I didn't really like, 82, 83. So we had to build these spacers to get it just a little bit higher off the tank, call it 3.5 inches. And then I just clipped this little desktop fan on it to keep this air from getting stagnant. So it doesn't actually cool anything off. It just sort of keeps the air from sitting still and overheating. And since I added that fan, my temperature has been very stable in the 76 range. I mean 76.5, 70, I think it hit 77.1 when I was cooking dinner for my family, since today also happens to be Easter. But not a big spike. It fixed every problem I was having. And this is just my favorite feature of this little guy. You can see that blue iridescence, and even the blue on the tail. They're just beautiful, beautiful little fish. Hardy, active. I would love to out of school, but they're not really schooling fish. Likes the camera. Obviously, you can see they all kind of do. It's pretty cute. The sailfin does not, but my little guy, he's doing better. He likes hanging out right near that pump. I was concerned he might get damaged by it, but no one's really having any issues. It's been running really, really well. I'm super happy. No ammonia spikes, no nothing. All in all, just a great, great little system. Very happy with it. Feel free to post comments, questions. I know it's overstocked. Don't really want to hear it. I'm getting a bigger tank eventually. Everything is small enough. It'll all fit. I can't really add any more fish, but what it has in there, it will gladly sustain. Hopefully over the next coming weeks, I'll add a few more coral. I would really like some mushrooms. I hear they're pretty easy to keep and like to propagate. And in an ideal world, in a few weeks, I'm going to re-aquascape once I get probably another 15 pounds of cured live rock and some rock epoxy. Everything's sort of haphazardly balanced, but I don't want to start securing anything until I'm relatively confident that it's going to stay that way for a while. And this past 2 weeks has just been a feeling out stage. I've had 2 issues with fish I've had to return. I've had to make several modifications to keep everybody happy. And as it stands, it's running great. I've been very happy with it.